thank you, Nancy, and also thank you, Roger, for sharing your experience. Wonderful to see, wonderful to listen. And I remember our last encounter was in London, where we also had a conference together, and great to see you. So, Kyle, I would also like to share my screen, if possible.
Yes, please, go ahead.
Okay. All right. And you let me know if there's something getting stuck or so. Okay. But you can see my screen, I guess, yeah?
Yes, it's very clear.
Okay, so I was thinking what would I like to share and how can I express my really deepest gratitude. First of all, of course, to Samuel Hahnemann's birthday, which is today, I think, 267 times repeated since he was born. And so happy birthday to you, Samuel. And the question, of course, for today is, first of all, of course, I'm also extremely grateful for all the contribution Rajan has given us over the many, many years. I saw him the first time. And of course, I like to also ask this question, is it an evolution or a revolution? So, and I like to invite you to a little play of words or to a little bit look behind that. Because when we look at the two words of revolution and evolution, there is actually not so much difference. There's just one letter, and this is the R. So I was asking myself about the R and what does it actually make in the difference. So the R, we could say, stands for revolution and makes the difference to evolution, but it's also the R of Rajan. So maybe the R of Rajan brings the evolution into a revolution, because when we look further, we could say evolution refers to the gradual development or changes in something over a period, which means, okay, there was the Hahnemann's words in the beginning and we follow it and it has a gradual development. And we know there are some of us who get really stuck to the very beginning words and they are scared to change anything. And there are some who might have lost him, but in an evolutional meaning, it is a gradual development. So in this, I would say Rajan was always following the gradual development. But on the other hand, the word revolution means a turnaround, a sudden, complete or radical change in something. And revolution is a fundamental change in something in a staggeringly short period. And this is the major difference between the two words evolution and revolution. Evolution is based on observations, empirical data, and tested hypotheses. And revolution brings about changes in culture, economy, and even social political conditions. So if I would say there is no clear yes or no, or we cannot say Rajan's work is mainly evolutional or revolutional. But if you, let's say, if you listen to the first time to some of the things he has discovered with his colleagues and all of us who are following the methods, it can be quite revolutionary when you hear it the first time. So it can turn your head around. You might get a headache. You might get a first aggravation when you hear about his sensation method. But it's all deeply rooted. And this is what I can see over the time. There is a discovery step by step. And there's one aphorism I picked up to this. And this is something I'm really, really grateful about, that I've learned it also from Rajan, that there is the unprejudiced observer. Yeah, he is the one who's always, now when he takes a case, when we follow him taking a case, he is the unprejudiced observer, well aware of all. I won't go into these details, but the unprejudiced observer takes note of nothing in every individual disease except the changes in the health of the body and of the mind. he notices only the deviations from the former healthy state of now deceased individual. So I just read you the highlighted parts. And all these perceptible signs represent the disease in its whole extent. That is, together they form the true and only conceivable portrait of the disease. So what I understood, and what is for me a really revolutionary point at that part, is that in the very beginning, when I was learning homeopathy in the early 90s, there was this topic about constitution, or we had like a chronic remedy for, or we had constitutional types, all that. But this was mainly to a certain mind picture, or we called it an essence in the beginning. With Rukas, he named it essences. And it wasn't really based on the dynamic changes. Yeah? And this, I learned so much from Rajan's approach, that we only look for dynamic changes. And he has termed it so beautifully that I will also just use his words. So first of all, we could say there's a systematic approach. There's also a systematic understanding. Over the decades now, we have such a beautiful, clear picture of the different kingdoms. Yeah? And I've collected a few images on my journey colors. You've done that with yours, with Rajan in Brazil. That was very animative, and thanks for that, Carlos. So I've collected a few images I took here when we had our group meetings in the south of Germany, because Rajan has been organized for many, many years, also in the 90s, end of the 90s, by Juergen Hansel and also my friend Anne Schadder. They brought him every year to Munich, and we had congresses together, and we were sharing in small groups newer understanding of remedies. We went into the plant kingdom, we had flower walks, all that. And of course, we could witness every year a deeper understanding, and from my feeling or my definition, really revolutionary discoveries. Because what they bring us is really more certainty, more clarity in understanding our substances. So we have the understanding today of all the kingdoms. We have the understanding of Rajan's approached extended understanding of the miasm, which are 10. So we start from the acute, we end in the syphilitic miasm. So we learned about the energetic pace. We learned about the kind of desperation if someone talks about his situation. And of course, we get in the sensation method to the vital sensation, to the inner deepest song or feeling, what we call the other song. And this is for me something so different, and it's absolutely the deepest meaning of Hahnemann's definition of homeopathy, because when you remember in aphorism 6, he termed it like to observe in the disease what has changed or what is different to the normal healthy state of that person. And this is something I'm really, really super grateful for, because there is no, I mean, we have to pick up when disease started and how the person, how the inner song, how the other song is playing in stress situation and how it's expressed. And I think for that, he so far hasn't left anything out. The only part which was, let's say, a little bit missing over the last years was we had, remember the schema, we had these tables where there were different families from the kingdoms. But then we got also to the latest discoveries, which he suddenly pulled out of his head in Munich. The first time I heard it was defining the sensations in the subclasses, in Cronquist subclasses, and of course then publishing it together with the equivalence in the which he terms now the superclasses. So having a certain plant class or clade let's say, the magnolids, and then see how are they similar, these plants, to the mollusks, which have similar themes. I've put that here together in this table from his insights. So he has defined so beautifully these 6 subclasses in Cronquist's taxonomy of the dicots, the dicotyledone plants. And we can see here the Magnoliidae, which are having issues of being withdrawn, numb, insensitivity, and things like that. And they can look like a superclass equivalent in the mollusks. Yeah? Or we have the 6th subclass, we have the Asteroidae, where we have it about flight or fight, or we have things like that. But there could also be maybe the snakes, yeah, as an equivalent in a superclass. Or we have maybe remedies in the mineral kingdom from the 6th or 7th column. So everything from this new insight over the last years, this was for me, again, it looks like a revolution because it can bring, or it brought so much change. But on the other hand, it's a logical evolution of something he never left. Yeah? So for me, this is something I would define Rajan as someone who never forgot about his air base, where he started his engine and where he knows where to land or to have his feet on the ground. And he learns us to fly, but he always knows his way back home. So this is something I'm really, really grateful for. And of course, out of that, we have a group of practitioners for many years now, which is the World Institute for Sensation Homeopathy. You can inform yourself on the website about that. But we also have congresses where different colleagues from around the world share their insights. And this, of course, empowers the method extremely. And yeah, we had these different congresses, and we had one in London, Meeting Point, where Nancy and Roger were also present. We have now, because of the pandemic, online conferences, congresses. There is an upcoming one now in May from the 6th to the 10th. And if you like to sign up, there's the address. So we have different speakers, and this time it's all about kingdoms, sub and superclasses. So something to learn in depth what Rajan has also discovered, him and colleagues around him about the last decades. So yeah, I don't want to take more time. I want to just express my deepest gratitude for what he was sharing with us, and what we all could, like, Mahesh, you named it so beautifully, that standing on the shoulders of someone, and that we can all, yeah, get further in our own personal evolution. And for that, I would say Rajan is a master of a combination of evolution and revolution, or he is a revolutionary person who goes an evolutionary process. So thanks for sharing, and I hand over to the next one. I guess it's Paresh, or thank you.